when we sailed in Japan, when we went to Japan, we had a KGB guy on board.
Oh, what?
So, dude, but we don't know who, because this was one of us.
Oh.
So basically, when
That's
the
bananas.
race is every single boat, when you went across, KGB would recruit one or two guys.
Ahoy, shipmates. Welcome back to On the Wind. I'm your host, Andy Schell, in for another quick impromptu interruption. This week's episode is hosted again by Ben Doer, our friend from Sail Bainbridge out in, outside Seattle. And Ben continues with the theme of the Race to Alaska hosting, where he interviewed Nikki about winning the Race to Alaska. She was on the team. And today's interview is with Ev, who's one of the owners of the boats that Nikki was on. So I'll let Ben provide more context to that interview, but I am here to talk about a few upcoming 59 North things. I'm going to start recording these intros the day before they go out to try to keep us a little bit more real time if you're listening to this the week it comes out. Today it's September 25th. It's Monday. In less than 2 weeks, I think, something like 2 weeks, me and Axel are flying back to the U.S. for Boat Show. We've got a bunch of events happening at Boat Show, all of which are on the page 59-north.com/boat show. You'll find out where the booth is going to be. We're teaming up with the Cannons Company again, Harbor Burn Cannons, so come see us there. It's actually the 59 North booth this time, so you can find us a little bit easier. Anyway, all that stuff's on Boat Show. We hope to see you guys at Boat Show, those of you that are in Annapolis or making the trip there, so check that out. We've also still got openings on the Azores to Lagos in Portugal, the last offshore passage of the year. So if you want to sail on Falcon in the Atlantic, get on over to 59-north.com/sign up and do it. It's going to be a great trip with Eric, who is our skipper from Sweden, and Ben Sufer, who started working with us, I think, way back in 2019 or 2018 as an apprentice, and now he's one of our first mates. So check that out. Sign up to sail with us. If you want to sail with us next year, that calendar is fully published, and we've got a couple surprises in store for the 2025 calendar, which is going to come out at Boat Show a couple weeks away from that, so stay tuned. I will be back with you guys as the host of the show, I think next week, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure next week I'll be hosting the show, so you get some new stuff from me. Until then, enjoy this episode with our friend Ben Doer from Sail Bainbridge, and hold fast.
Ahoy, shipmates. It's your host, Andy Schell. No, it's not. Ahoy, shipmates. It's your host, Emma Garshagen. Okay, it's not. Ahoy, shipmates. Yeah, it is your... It's your host, August. Okay, it's not. It's your guest host, Ben Doer, back for another episode of On the Wind. Super excited to get to guest host this podcast because it is the podcast that brought me to the 59 North family, meeting Andy that way and getting to be on the podcast and then getting to sail with all you guys and then getting to do this. So this is incredible. An update on what I've been up to this summer is that I have been in my regular sailing season with Sail Bainbridge, my company here on Bainbridge Island, Washington. My daughter, my 14-year-old, has been an absolute rock star working with me this summer, running the boat, operating the boat, and learning to really do everything on her own on our 44-foot Alden design ketch. Super, super fun to work with her. So that's been a proud papa moment. And so that's a fun update from me. This podcast, this episode, is with my friend Evgeniy Goussev. We call him Ev, and he's just an awesome individual. Grew up in Russia, sailing with his dad and a bunch of friends, and actually escaped Russia on a sailboat. And he's told me all these cool stories from his past, and I wanted to have them shared on the podcast. I thought he'd be a great storyteller on the mic, and he was and is. So enjoy this episode, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed talking with him. And until next time, hold fast. On the Wind is supported this season by AG1, the daily foundational supplement that supports whole body health. Athletic Greens. I got into this very simply. There was an ad on the Wind on this podcast, and of course my friends were using it, so I gave it a try. I love using it in my off season when I'm at the gym. Doing a little bit of CrossFit to try to maintain something until the next summer comes around. And I will use Athletic Greens because I feel like I just don't get enough fruits and veggies in my diet. Even though I'm kind of a fruits and veggies guy, it's something about the time and whatever else. So I love their little water bottle that comes with it. You put 1 scoop in there, mix it up, shake it up, whatever. And AG1's been great. I feel good drinking it. It seems to give me a little boost, and it doesn't taste disgusting. It tastes really good, actually. It's not too sweet, which I appreciate, but it's not sour or chalky either. It's a quite delicious, tasty drink. So I've enjoyed that, and enjoyed knowing that I'm getting some of that healthy stuff into my body, regardless of what my eating routine looks like for the day. So that's been great. If this comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then give this AG1 a try. Get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. It comes in a nice little can. They give you a nice little water bottle. You mix it up. It's easy to go. So check it out. Go to drinkag1.com/onthewind. That's drinkag1.com/onthewind and check it out. This season of On the Wind is also brought to you by Forbes Horton Yachts, the official yacht broker of On the Wind. You guys have been hearing his name for a long time, and certainly been a long time supporter of this podcast. Working with a broker is something that I can't recommend enough. I think you have to have a broker, and it can be hard to find one that really knows what they're talking about and is cutting through some of the BS that you can find out there in the yacht purchasing or selling world. Forbes will sell or buy a yacht with you, which is great, of course, and he's super knowledgeable. He's not just one of these, as Andy says, blowhard brokers. He knows his stuff, and he's got a lot of experience sailing. He and his wife have sailed offshore together and had lots of experience over the years, certainly buying and selling yachts. I have always worked with a broker in the boats I've bought. You guys have heard Andy and I talk about my boats, starting with my sailboat, True, that I run my business with, and then on to the wood boat that we lived on and are currently selling. I have that same broker selling that boat, and that same broker helped us with the process of buying the fireboat that we live on. So I think it's invaluable in the sense that you cannot really put a price on it. They do put a price on it, 10%, but it's something that's an absolute necessity if you're getting into a boat with any kind of complexity, especially if you're looking to go offshore with it. So anyway, check out Forbes Horton Yachts. Forbes is the dealer for X Yachts and will be at the X Yachts dock during the Annapolis Boat Show. So stop by and give a chat with that guy. I know he'd be happy to talk with you, and he's got a whole lot of experience in the yacht brokering world and in the sailing world, and certainly supporting this podcast. So thanks, Forbes, for supporting this podcast as always. You're listening to On the Wind, the podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your guest host, Ben Dorr. Evgeniy Goussev, Ev, was born in the far east of Russia, where he began sailing at the age of 5 and was soon competing in a variety of classes, while having a grand adventure on the sea with his father and friends. As the Soviet Union began to deteriorate and infighting became dangerous, his father decided to sail away, unsure if his eldest son was coming with the family. I sat down to talk with my good friend Ev about his seaborne childhood, his escape from the USSR, and the journey that took him around the world to his life here on Bainbridge Island, where he continues to build a community focused on seamanship and sailing culture. Why don't you give, for the sake of the top of the podcast, give us your full name and what you had for breakfast.
Yeah, so my name is Evgeniy Goussev, and for breakfast today I just had a coffee, toast, and a little bit of butter.
That's nice.
You know,
Yeah.
my breakfast usually small. You know, like I don't eat a lot in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Excellent. This podcast usually starts. I skipped it with Nikki because I was not thinking about it, but we usually start by having the guest describe the space that we're in. It's often on a boat. We're not on either of our boats or any of our boats. So you want to describe the space for us?
yeah, so it's kind of cool, but it was interesting even from drive up. You know, it's like obscure driveway on the dirt road. You come up to the top of the hill, and there's absolutely two cute yellow, look like a farmhouse, and maybe like a small cottage kind of thing right next to it. You walk in, and it's a full-on studio with a drum set, guitars hanging on the wall, piano, full sound booth. It's quite amazing, actually.
It's a cool spot.
It's like completely like, wow, okay, this is something unexpected. You know?
Yeah. This place is called Brickyard. Brickyard Studio. Yeah, I've
Awesome.
made all my records here and absolutely love it. We're here on Bainbridge Island, which is home to both of us, but and where we met, but not where you come from. Where do you come from?
So I grew up on the far east of Russia, in a place called Nakhodka, which is about 60 miles north of Vladivostok. That's where most people know about because it was a big military town and closed for many years. And it's actually opened up almost like we left in 91. It became open in 92. That's when the foreigners can't even go there.
Oh,
So
wow.
I spent a lot of my youth sailing between Nakhodka and Vladivostok, and every time we go to Vladivostok, it was closed town. So it was open to us as far as sailing goes, but I sailed by so many freaking subs and, you know, destroyers and things, and it's pretty crazy, but it was a lot of fun too.
Just Cold War stuff.
Cold War stuff, but it was really, really big military town. It was closed for years and years.
Oh,
you know,
interesting.
to the foreigners.
To the foreigners. But any Russians could go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
And what were you sailing back then? What did you start sailing on?
So I started sailing when I was 5 years old. So I was given, we had two small yacht clubs next to each other, and they were sponsored by, one was by the fishing company that actually was also fishing crab in Alaska and all over, that had huge ships. Okay. And another one was more of a city kind of yacht club. But we all had, it was very, very basic containers on the shore, you know, like basic buildings. But we had optis, we had cadets. Later on, we had a ton of tornadoes. So I don't know why, but we had like ton of tornado cats that were like super fast, crazy machines. Opti cadets, 470s, 420s. I don't think in the States I even seen cadet. It was more of a European kind of boat.
I don't know it.
You know, Polish, you know, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So we started with the wooden ones, and then they all went to fiberglass. At the age of 13, I had my own Peterson 25. It's like a J24, but it's a Peterson design built in Poland. And we have, even to the day, I think in Vladivostok right now, at least 75 of those.
Oh my gosh. So this is like
it's a
one
fleet,
design
one
fleet.
design fleet. So in our yacht club, we had 12.
Wow.
So, and it was not just me. So it was 3, what they call kids boats, but basically I was a captain of one at the age of 13. So my crew was same age guys. I had a couple guys couple years older than me, but there was 3 boats like that where the youngsters were, and my father had one. So I mean, he would race. So one of the big regattas is happening in Russian Vladivostok in September, and basically the way it's always worked is that we had a lot of Olympians from Sochi, from Black Sea, from Baltic Sea would come over, and we would take the worst crews that didn't make it, and we make them give up the boats to those guys, right?
Huh.
But I mean, all the boats were on the level. You know, some people brought their own sails. Like, I mean, the guys on the Baltic also had the same boat. So they would fly in with their own sails, but use our hulls and masts kind of thing.
Yeah.
But all the boats were super competitive. And this was one of the regattas, I guess, where you, in Russian system, beside being a captain, you also had a ranking on Olympic level where you had to outcompete certain number of masters. So, like, for example, in this race, to get a candidate to a master of sport, you had to pass at least 5 masters and at least 10 candidates of masters. And I'm a lucky guy who basically made, in a Soviet Union ledger, you can look it up, it's still somewhere online. A friend of mine just sent it to me a couple of years ago. Me and Yuri, a good friend of mine who lives in Canada now, but we are 2 last candidates of sport registered in Soviet Union. So we basically, I think we came in 11th out of 75.
Oh, wow.
And we're talking about kids.
Yeah.
Like I think I was 14.
But
right?
you're racing against anybody.
Oh,
in this
no,
league.
dude, we're racing against 5-time Olympian and Finn, my father. You know, like, I mean, so it is very interesting competition because it's not like here. Here, we go out and we do buoy racing, right, all day long. There is a little bit different. So the first race, a buoy race. The second day, it's a 30-mile race.
Oh, wow.
The next day, it's a 300-mile race where you basically leave the Vladivostok, go all the way to Nakhodka, then go all the way to North Korea. And this is the stories we can talk about later on. There's a river comes out between Russia and North Korea.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the buoys, they always place it right smack in between. And that river brings a ton of fog because, again, like the way the islands work. So you basically have to sneak into fog, no GPS, no nothing. You have to figure out, round this stupid buoy in the fog, and then come right back out.
But to be clear, you're also not using like a sextant or anything. You're just
mostly dead reckoning.
Okay.
Mostly dead reckoning.
Okay.
The other thing is, sailing and cruising was not an issue because the entire Russian coast littered with a military radar. So they always track you. So as soon as you leave port, you actually have to call in and say, this is sailboat Diana, I have 5 people on board. Sometimes they ask you the names or wherever, you know, going from here to there. And they ping you on the radar. So at that point, they basically, you a target and you constantly traveling. If you lost, you call the station. Said, hey guys, what's up? Can you give me a bearing? He's like, well, you know, like from this station to this station, bearing 168, from there. So triangulation, right? So when you just go on the chart, you lay triangulation, boom, you're right smack on a dot.
Dude, when I'm lost in the fog in Strait of Juan de Fuca next time, I'm going to try this with Victoria Coast Guard.
You could.
Like, because they know where you are.
Yeah, Port Angeles tracking you.
That's
like,
crazy.
That's the funny part is, like, here people think we are free to sail wherever. Oh, it's freedom. I have a friend who works in Port Angeles station. I was coming back from Victoria back home, and he called me. He's like, Grey Wolf, blah, blah, blah. I answered. He's like, listen, can you identify this boat for me? It's just a little bit to the side. Like, I mean, change your course a little bit. I just need to get a name on it.
Oh,
you
wow.
know?
Yeah.
So, and I guess, and it was a fishing boat. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether, but they were tracking it. For whatever reason, Port Angeles radar station wanted to know exactly who they were.
Well,
right?
Victoria Coast Guard one time called me on the radio when I had crossed the border. I don't have AIS.
Yep.
How'd they have a boat name on me? Like, I have no idea. They were just like, they hailed Sailing Vessel True and were asking our intentions about where we were headed to check in or whatever. I'm like, what is happening?
Yep.
That someone's seen me.
Yep.
So maybe a similar thing where another boat has glassed me or something.
Yep, potentially.
Yeah. Anyway, that's wild that you guys are sailing to North Korea for an afternoon race.
Well,
I mean, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But you're like too close.
Yes.
That's not, you know, this is also not like.
It was close.
Yeah.
And then you round that point, and then you come back, and then you have a 2 days intensive buoy racing.
Okay.
So, and basically, yeah, so that fleet, even to the day, as far as like competition, and I gauge it on my father. My father is a fantastic sailor. You give him a log, he'll win the race. And he was top 10 constantly.
Yeah.
Well, there were races where he was top 20, but it's extremely competitive. I mean,
Yeah.
the guys there would not give you an inch.
Yeah.
And it's to the T international rules. So, for example, you finish, like, we don't do PHRF, we don't do any measuring here. Over there, first 5 boats, you do not go to the dock. You won a race, you go, and you drop an anchor right in the middle. And then the judges will come out and inspect is your anchor in the same spot as it is registered in a boat? Is your, like, I mean, they will take a look through all the sails and make sure all the markings on the sails, because the competition is this rough. Because it's basically in Soviet Union, it was 5 races around Soviet Union, and this was one of them, and it was a serious event.
Yeah.
And
these boats you're flying spinnakers. It's the whole deal.
Oh yeah. I'll show you the pictures. These boats turtle just like J24s.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
basically, if you lay it down all the way down, the keel is so small, it'll stay down. Like
Yeah.
if you have somebody come up to like a first spreader, the boat will just sit flat in the water. It doesn't sink because it has a slightly different cockpit from J24. It doesn't have hatches on the back, so it's sealed. I spend a good amount of time, just laying on
Just
the side,
on your ear.
On your ear, figuring out what's next.
Oh my gosh! So that sounds like fun. Yeah, you'll have to get us photos, and we'll put them in the show notes. We'll get a bunch of photos from you to put in the show notes. That'll be a good one to see one of those boats. Maybe if you have a picture of flying full spinnaker or something.
Oh yeah.
Be cool.
I have a picture of one laying on the side. I have a bunch of pictures. Yeah.
So at what point are
Those
you
boats.
doing these races? Because it's obviously your dad. I want to talk about your parents a little bit, because at this point, had your parents were they cruising big boats, or this is just how your whole family was sailing on little boats and doing that sort of thing?
No, my dad got sick with sailing early. No, I wouldn't say probably about, I want to say, to be correct, 78, 79, just roughly. I mean, basically, he moved me into the yacht club same time. And he started sailing a lot, but he also worked for a big shipping company. So Primorsk Shipping Company was a giant tanker company that delivered fuel, actually, Venezuela, Boston. That just 10 years ago, the last one I've met, my friends were working, my dad's friend was a captain, and I have my classmates who work on a ship, 3 of them, because the whole town was basically one giant company. And because my father was a captain first and then ran part of the oil terminal, so he was pretty high up in the company, he figured out financially how, because the company, in the Soviet Union, the companies made all the money, but all the money eventually went to Moscow. But the company had to retain some money to order new ships or to order new equipment or something like this.
Or to siphon away into somebody's
siphon away
pockets.
No, pockets were, at that time, siphoning in the pockets was impossible because there's way too many people watching you and everything else.
Gotcha.
But, for example, if you go and buy a full set of Furuno instruments that was supposed to go on one boat, but we got a double, just a backup, and then end up on a sailboat, that was not a bad idea. Or instead of ordering 7 lifeboats, there was another yacht attached to it. And in Poland, most of the tankers and ships, and a lot of ships was built in Poland, so is sailboats. So, for example, in the process of Primorsk Shipping Company receiving a brand new tanker, came 3 Peterson 25s and 1 40-footer.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, we're talking about millions and millions of dollars at the time, right? I mean, it was
Pennies.
just pennies
Yeah.
in this tanker price. It was like a gift that came on top of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was the bow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was the bow on it. But there was a lot of guys at Primorsk Shipping Company that also loved sailing. So it was not just my father. We had a yacht club. So eventually what happened is, and why my childhood was so awesome is, Primorsk Shipping Company went to the city and said, listen, we need the place. Like, this is just stupid, these container things. And I think it was maybe early 80s, like, we need the place. And the city said, well, if you build a camp, for kids, and if it's 100 kids camp, if you take 20 derelicts from, child homes or wherever, then 20% will be, city have a right to give you 20 kids, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then the rest is yours. And they gave us a huge area in the bay. They dug out a huge bay basically build a yacht club.
Wow.
Again, funny how they supported it, right? Because you can't have a kids camp in that way. So they have taken the old fishing tropper, giant fishing. We're talking about like 120 meters, right?
Yeah,
giant thing.
the big
and
ocean
they
killers.
parked it. And they parked it right there at the head of the bay. where they dug it out. And a captain was the head of the yacht.
Oh
the
my
yacht
gosh!
club.
So
The
that's your
bosun-
building?
that was the way they could pay the people who worked at
Oh,
the
you
yacht
mean
club.
they just parked? Okay, gotcha.
The captain
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the head.
Yeah.
The bosun was the head of maintenance.
I'm
The
catching it.
deckhand was the counselor.
Yeah.
That watched for the kids, right?
Oh my gosh.
There was a chef. There was a kitchen. There was everything. I mean, and nobody actually worked on the ship because all the buildings were there.
Right.
Also.
Yeah, yeah.
But you were listed on a ship.
That's
the
amazing.
way you were receiving salary.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was a fully functional ship
That's
that
really
never went
cool.
to sea.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so tons of sailing early on, and you say your childhood was awesome, and it sounds like it was. You're sailing around. At what point do your parents start to go like, "We're going to leave"? Because obviously you're here,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we'll work towards that sort of
Yeah.
story. Like it sounds like your dad. Well, I guess nobody could really do well personally, but he ran a company well, and he had a good job as far as what was available there. But at what point are they like, let's get out of here and go sailing? And was it the sailing, or was it the leaving Russia, or was it the both?
I think it's both because so my dad, he had a Swedish job at one point. Towards the end, he was not doing the paperwork anymore. He became a captain on a tugboat, and basically all he did, he would work his ass off from October till the end of May, and then he will take all of his vacation and spare time off, including trading with some other relief captains.
Gotcha.
But he would have entire summer off.
Okay.
And that gave him ability to travel. And we also have done a lot of races in Japan. So my dad went and did the races in Australia, right?
Oh wow.
So
On what boats?
bigger boats. So we had same Polish build called Cetus. It's a 46-footer. We had a lot of 40-footers. My dad had at that time we already had Nahodka, the boat we left on.
Okay.
It was built in Leningrad, but it's a woody.
Yeah.
It was a weird design. So my dad also, so it was a lot of progress in that. I mean, we could travel. We were in a system. We already knew how to travel, how to go offshore, how to leave the country. This was never an issue for us because
Right.
again, it was under the sports umbrella. It was.
Yeah.
You have to get the visas.
But for
and
the
all this
young
stuff.
people listening to this podcast, or the older people who forget, this is not a time when you're just in and out of Russia.
Oh, dude, no. When
Yeah.
when we sailed in Japan, when we went to Japan, we had a KGB guy on board.
Oh, what?
So, dude, but we don't know who because this was one of us.
Oh.
So basically, when
That's
the
bananas.
races, every single boat, when you went across, KGB would recruit one or two.
So
one
you
or two
sailed to
guys.
Japan from Russia to go race.
Yeah. And then you race there and you come back. And so, as soon as you leave the dock, my dad would be like, okay, fess up. Who the hell is it today? And somebody will raise my hand. I am. He's like, we're writing reports together. So, basically, at the end of the day, yes, they had to produce some sort of reports.
Yeah.
And this is especially during 80s. That was
Yeah.
definitely present.
Yeah.
Definitely present.
Wild.
And then they would come back, and again, they can't be all glorious reports, right? You have to do, somebody
You
got to
got-
do something stupid.
you gotta
and
throw
shady.
somebody under the
Somebody
bus.
gonna go under the bus
Yeah.
or drink too much. But again, offenses, there was no consequences, but it's more of how the system kept together, right? Somebody had to report something.
That's crazy.
Every ship, Primor Shipping Company, there was always KGB. Not KGB officer, but it's somebody who is reporting to
Like an
KGB.
informant.
Informant.
Yeah.
There's always been that.
And can anybody get called up? Somebody like KGB could pull you aside and be like, "You're going to be our informant on this trip.
Yep.
Don't say anything."
That's exactly the way it was. And usually either they find some sort of compromise in you, or they always just, because you held. Oh, so there was also a party system, right? So, my dad was part of the Communist Party, right? Because he was on the upper echelon, wherever, of the company. So he had an obligations, right? So, and a lot of times, actually, they wanted to catch that guy. So my dad could not be KGB guy. They never approached him.
Right.
Although he know all of the officers,
Right. Yeah.
Actually, KGB officer for our town was my dad's best friend, right? So, but but somebody had to, and they always like give this opportunity to grow, right? You're gonna be the KGB guy on this trip. It's opportunity for you to grow,
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You could dictate. You could be the dictator of the country one day.
But in the sailing community, I never heard that somebody failed royally or somebody got in trouble because of something.
Right.
And I mean, there were shenanigans up to wazoo.
All right. So you guys had traveled a bunch. You're sailing to Japan. Just no big deal. We're going to sail over to Japan for like a weekend race. Or like you'll be there for a couple weeks or something.
Not the weekend. Usually.
How long does it take? How far is that?
It's only 530 miles.
Okay, so it's 5 days, 6 days.
Yeah, it's a 4-day sail.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's not far. But at the same time, we've met through sailing through that. One of the boats we met was Viveka from San Diego. The other one was from Bellingham. There was a family traveling around the world. I'm actually not, I'm going to butcher the name. I don't remember. But it was a 44 dark blue hull American family that traveling around the world that basically went to Japan. And then my dad invited them to come to Russia. So, and they said, sure, and showed up a week later.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
So they finished the race, came back, and a week later, these guys showed up.
How'd Russia feel about that?
Oh, no problem at all.
Okay, they could come in.
So we also had a lot of people. So Bellingham and Nakhodka is sister towns.
Oh,
so
okay.
we actually had American kids in our camp during the summer for a month.
Wild.
Pretty much since 1981.
Wow.
You know, like Cold War raging.
Yeah.
There's American, usually 12 to 16 kids.
Who is
in
sending
Russia.
their kids to a Far East Russian town for sailing camp during the Cold War? Like, that's bananas.
People from Bellingham.
Of course it is.
You know, so
Of course it is. We just want peace and love, man.
Well, but this is where I. So the first time meeting American kids was weird as hell. So they coming over, right? And we're just kids, right? 12, 13, whatever. And these kids come over and we always, so imagine, we call it kubrik, where we have 12 kids. So it's 12 beds. And at the head of this, the counselor has his own bed, but it's kind of separated by the small curtain kind of thing, but we all sleep together. And it has to be clean. You have to clean it every day with mop and the whole thing. Yeah. It's spotless. It's clean. It's an army style living kind of thing, right? You have to make your bed every single day.
Fold the corners.
Everything in the open. The only thing you had is a little thing next to your, like your bag and under the bed, and right next to you, you have like a little side table. And these American kids come over, and the first thing they do, they pull out American football posters, Cowboys, Miami, Miami Dolphins, and they just plastered the whole thing with this giant, beautiful. I haven't even seen printouts like that good.
Right,
you know what I
for
mean?
like companies.
From the companies, and they plastered the whole thing. And the first 5 minutes we look at each other, and we didn't even know how to communicate, right? Because we don't speak English, and they don't speak freaking Russian.
Yeah.
So, and then slowly within a day or two, using hands and learning words like this is this. I mean, by the end of the month, we basically speaking to each other, half words, half hands, wherever.
You knew like the 8 dirtiest words in the English language.
Oh, yeah. We teach them everything we could,
Yeah.
It was amazing. I mean,
awesome.
and this is like, Nakhodka was a very open town in that sense. Because there was a lot of international ships come in. There was a lot of this Bellingham thing happening.
Yeah.
So in Japan, same thing. There was a sister town in Japan. There was always visits from Japan. So for us, it was not that bad. And my dad got sick by sitting with American guys and listening to his story of sailing with a family. He already delivered a bunch of boats back from, he did Kilowaha race. He basically built the boats on the Black Sea and then delivered them back under its own power to here.
Okay.
He went to Vietnam on Nakhodka and actually flipped it 360, lost the mast. So he had plenty of experience on sailing at this point, but he was thinking, what if I take a family?
Yeah.
And coming back to your question is, during the perestroika, he started with partners. They started a visit company that basically was, because of his connections in Japan, a lot of Japanese were interested into coming into Russia, go visit the factories, find out where they can get the metal, where they can get the raw wood and all this stuff. And this company basically catered towards small groups, 3 to 5 people, travel anywhere in industrial Russia, limos, hotels, everything else, private security, everything else.
Yeah.
And they start making good money because there was so much demand. I mean, basically, it was a lot.
Okay.
And somebody in Moscow decided, you know what? It's a pretty sweet business, and this guy's making money. We want to take over. So, and literally, this is where the 90s started. Like
Okay.
it was 1990, and the car driver was driven off the road first time. Then somebody was killed. Then the office got blown up. And then basically, I was, as a kid, I was present at the meeting. They were sitting drinking behind the table and saying, listen, people, like, we have to retaliate. If we don't retaliate, I mean, they just keep on pushing us, right? It shows we're weak. You know, the only thing here is the power. And that's where my dad said, listen, I'm not deciding to kill anybody. I will never, like, be okay with it. So here is the deal. I'm leaving.
Walk me back to who is doing these attacks.
People in Moscow.
Okay. So it's
It
just
just-
like
it just-
becoming this internal
Yeah.
crazy fucking war, basically.
Our town, so there was a Chechen mafia, but Chechen
Okay.
mafia was always interested in cars. Right?
Okay.
So
That is deeply stereotypical.
dude, like, I mean, there is a levels of this stuff, and
Yeah.
my dad was not part of it.
Okay.
He was too honest.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even my brother one time kind of accused him. We were drunk, and he accused him. He said, only if you stayed back home, we could be rich right now,
Oh,
and stuff like
interesting.
this, because all of my father's friends are very rich.
Yeah.
They all live outside Russia right now.
Yeah.
Enjoying a ton of $1 million.
But
right?
is it kind of shitty rich? I mean, it's not good rich.
Well, so
They,
the Primor
they
shipping
got skeletons in the closet from that.
dude, Primor Shipping Company had 79 tankers. Can you imagine? We're talking about not a super tankers, but we're talking about massive tankers. 79 ships.
Yeah.
Today, 6.
Wow.
They were all sold before 2000.
Okay, sold by all these guys and then pocketed and out they went.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your dad didn't want to get involved in that. At the same time
he
that,
was
as
too-
you say,
he was too honest.
he's been infected with this idea of sailing around the world with
Yeah.
his family.
Yeah.
And so, how does that start to shape up? So, we're talking early '90s.
So yeah, we're talking about 1990 when he started talking about it.
Okay.
And I just finished high school,
Okay.
and the last 2 years of high school, I also finished the Primor Shipping Company College, because they had a vocational college, and that's where I got my mechanical degree.
So this is like a maritime high school.
Maritime.
Yeah.
No. So the high school was high school, but there was a maritime college attached to the company.
Okay.
To produce A/B sailors and the motorists, and not an officer grade, but
like
basically
engineers. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, cool.
So I went to, in the evening, I went to that school, and then high school during the day.
Well, that paid off.
It paid off big in
Yeah.
the future. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and but then after that, I went to DVIMU, and DVIMU is again one of 3 most important maritime universities in Russia at the time. So there's a one in St. Pete, one in Black Sea, and one in Vladivostok. And I got in because, again, I knew every single professor who sailed.
And your
right?
guys'
So-
lives were just so seafaring. Like you were
Yeah.
either racing or thinking
Dude,
about boats or
yeah.
shipping and all this stuff.
The school ends in May, and I was never there in May. So I actually didn't graduate high school.
Okay.
Because I neglected English language, because I felt I was proficient, you know.
Because you knew
and-
those 8 dirty words.
Exactly. And she didn't give me a diploma. She said, you have to stay and finish this.
Wow.
You know, you're going to spend every hour you missed in my class. She was the only teacher that I still remember to the day.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she was the only teacher that made me spend every hour that I missed during the year to finish until she gave me my high school diploma.
So you did get it eventually.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
So, but and at the same time, I went to DVIMU. I passed the exams, and I was going to be the navigator. Going that it's half military, half commercial kind of thing. So basically, if you
Kind of
go
like
to the
merchant navy. kind of
merchant
thing?
navy, yeah. So in reality, if I went there, I didn't have to go to army.
Okay.
But at the same time, there was still Chechen conflict already was practically over, but there was some residual stuff, and there was still people Russians were sent there to monitor and blah blah blah, and there was still a lot of killing going on, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I think it was, so somebody called my mom and said, listen, they're gonna grab your son from college. And she's like, no, they can't do that. He's already in this university. Everything's gonna be hunky-dory. He doesn't have to go to the service. They're like, no, they're gonna take him. So, and my dad tried to find out what's happened. Somebody against my dad there was some background crap happening that has nothing to do with me,
right?
But I was going to be sent somewhere, and basically,
like military service.
Yeah. And because I did very well in my military high school stuff, I can shoot, I'm short, I can jump, like my physical abilities were great.
I love that I'm short.
Because they're gonna put me a paratrooper.
Okay.
And the paratroopers go straight to all they were at the time they were the craziest guys. Paratrooper in Soviet army at the time was like the top to like ram and blah blah blah.
Front lines wherever the
stuff is happening.
Yeah, dang.
So and they said he's gonna go there. So that's how this story begins. My dad is like, listen, we're leaving because I am not dealing with this situation in my company. You have a choice. Either you stay. There's a potential to do this. Maybe if I leave, they don't take you. But basically, this is what's happened. And I'm like, dude, I'm going with you.
And your mom was on board?
This. My mom was on board.
She a sailor?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's not a racer, but she's definitely sailed a lot.
Yeah, she at this point had cruised with your dad.
Oh, absolutely,
okay.
Totally.
The whole family. What about your brother? Was racing and sailing?
Yeah,
and all that
both kids, all three of us was basically born on boats, except me.
Okay.
But the other two definitely, since they were tiny, teeny things.
Okay.
So, and we decided to leave. So at this point, my dad bought Nakhodka. This it's a 38 foot, but 36. It's kind of weird design, but a good cruising boat, good proven cruising boat. My dad sailed to Vietnam and back on it, flipped it, on 360. The boat was proven, no transmission. So the engine was like, as soon as you start, it goes forward.
Wow.
And, but at the same time, we packed it. And
and this is a wooden vessel. Plank, Carvel planked, or was this like cold molded? Or?
No, not cold molded planks.
Okay.
And it was, I don't know what kind of wood exactly it was, but it was white.
Okay.
And it was very decent. It's a very good boat, So we ended up sailing around the world on a 360 plus.
Yeah.
But basically at that point, my dad gave up a car, gave a bribe to one of the army guys that recruit the recruits, right? So he doesn't recruit me. And at the same time, he's setting this up, the first Russian family to sail around the world. He was contributing to a Russian sailing magazine, the mayor of our town. Everybody knew my mother and everybody knew my dad in our hometown.
Wow.
Like, because what they did there, right? And in a sense, like, we're leaving. There's a TV station. Everybody's shooting like first Russian family to sail around the world. And they're showing two kids, my brothers, my mom and my dad, everybody, the customs agent, everything, all documents signed, everybody leaving. And I'm hiding in a freaking port, right, on the other side. And these Navy guys showed up and they're like, where's your son? We don't know. They're like, what do you mean you don't know? And all these officials standing there. This is how absurd the situation is, right?
Yeah.
There's a mayor of town. There is all of this, the head of police. Like, it was a big deal. It was a giant deal. My dad organized it specifically that way with cameras and everything.
Yeah.
It was televised all over Soviet Union. And where is your son? Like, not there. So basically, they coming off the dock and wave away. And then he pulls in and answers picks me up, and we just booked it. And the first probably day was the scariest because we didn't know if anybody would if they had balls to chase us down and take me off the boat.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah. It's not like you're going that fast.
No, that boat was doing 6.5, 5.5 knots.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
That's amazing. And off to where? Where do you go first?
So we went to Japan.
Okay.
We went to Hokkaido.
Okay.
And then we slowly traveled down on, and again, like the beauty, we did exactly what the Americans did. You show up, you kind of dock, go in the marina or wherever. And again, we did not have enough money So therefore, but we already in Japan we had a lot of friends, right?
Yeah.
So and a lot of friends say, "Hey, stay in this marina. I'll pay for the marina," type of
Oh,
deal.
wow.
We were honored guests, kind of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
right? And we liked it, we stay longer. And then we didn't
Yeah.
like it, we move on. Like and
What was the language skills situation like? Did your parents have other languages? You had a bit of English.
My
from high
dad was
school?
the best.
Okay,
because
of his international
because
travel.
and because
Okay.
he's captain. I mean, he spoke English pretty decently.
So I imagine that's how you cross over in Japan is with a little bit of English or something with a few people that can speak
Yeah.
English.
My English sucked. I could ask where the bathroom is, or but I could not hold a conversation.
Right.
I mean, my conversational English was non-existent at that point.
Yeah.
So, and we traveled from Hokkaido. We just went down, went to Taiwan, went to Singapore, and then we went to Sri Lanka.
Oh wow.
So we kind of calmed down the coast very slowly,
Yeah.
like this was in Singapore we stayed 4 months. In Vietnam we stayed 6 months because we went to a Russian base, and basically my brothers went to school because it's a full-on Russian Navy base.
Out at this Russian base, they weren't like, wait, the son's here, let's send him back?
No.
Just fully disorganized. And...
I was hanging out with the old guys, and in Russia, that was, if you a noob, you get punished.
Yeah.
Right? And I was a noob punishing my freaking peers with the older guys because I was cool. I was on the sailboat, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't part of the system.
Okay. All right. But there's no like report out on the wire that Ev is missing and that
no, because officially I was given I don't know what it's called, but parlay for 2 or 3 years while
with the car, right? Okay.
So officially we did, but whoever wanted to snatch me was unofficial infighting kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So officially my dad got the documents that I
Okay.
don't have to serve for these 3 years.
So
while this first
in Sri Lanka they don't care.
in
They're
Sri-
like,
yeah.
they're not
Well, in Vietnam. So,
in Vietnam,
and then
okay.
we pull in Sri Lanka, and it was the funniest thing. We pull in, and we see this American boat, Viveka, and it was J-class, like schooner, super sleek, super low to the water, crazy good looking, wooden mass, 70, I think Viveka was 73 feet long.
Oh, wow.
Like huge,
Yeah.
beautiful bowsprit, gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the captain was Mel Peterson. He was actually Commodore of, I think it was San Diego, San Francisco Yacht Club.
Okay.
I think, if
Yeah.
I'm correct. Somebody might correct me on that one. And he's jumping up and down, Vasily, because he is funny. He's traveling around the world, shows up for this Japanese race, pulls up into Russia, and he had Perkins. He had Fort Lehman in
Yeah.
there. And
sorry.
he's like, damn it, this thing is not working. The Russians, don't worry about it. We will do it. So they literally, in 2 weeks prior to the start, they yanked the motor out of the boat, put it in the machine shop, rebuilt from scratch, put it back inside, and didn't charge him a penny.
Wow.
Because it was done for the race.
Yeah.
It was a goodwill gesture.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy got like 30, 40 grand worth of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
For free. And he actually said that rebuild lasted longest than ever.
Wow.
So, and we saw him in Sri Lanka. And
Yeah.
that's when he was trying to make a deal with my dad at dinner. And he's like, because the way he traveled around the world, one guy on the 73-foot boat, and he would always pick up people. And that most of them didn't know how to sail. And soon as the Indian Ocean was a big deal to him, it's a long distance. He's like, give me your son, I'll pay the money. I pay him money, but I need somebody else. Vasily, I have to, because the season was ending.
Yeah.
So you had to start going. So basically, I'm like, I'll go,
Yeah.
and that's when my English that's when I learned to speak English.
Oh wow.
Because it was Australian, English prick, Scot, New Zealander, American. So it was a crew of 8
On the schooner.
on a schooner.
So you jumped ship onto the
From my
schooner.
parents' boat to the
Okay.
schooner. And we went across Indian Ocean. And this is where I picked up each word with a slang and
From each.
from each person.
That explains your accent.
Like
Yeah.
when we reach Europe and I go to the bar, I open my mouth, people would start laughing the asses off because they couldn't understand what the hell coming out of my mouth. Because
That's
it was
amazing.
funny because I just picked up and I use full slang of Australians and English.
Right. Yeah.
And that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
such a soup, man.
That's amazing.
Even I realize now.
So you sailed with those guys, and your parents carried on. You didn't go to the same place at this point.
Yeah.
They-
Well, I mean, we same route,
Okay.
so we all went to Aden.
Okay.
We all went through the Red Sea.
Yeah.
We all went through Suez Canal. It's
Oh,
just
wow.
different
Okay.
timing.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You know.
Gotcha. And so you're at sea now. I mean, you've done some like 4-day passages and stuff, but now you're like sailing around the world proper. You're like circumnavigating. You're starting to. I mean, maybe you're not thinking about it that way, but you're away from Russia. You're sailing. How is ocean sailing affecting your psyche, or what are you thinking about? What do you love about it? What do you not like about it? Like what's entering the whole experience there?
Because I grew up with it, I think it was natural to me. Like I love sailing. So for me it was just a job. It wasn't a job. It was a part of the game. I don't know how to describe correctly, because job is when you labor, I mean, or job is when you just simply do things, right? For me, it was more of a game, I mean, I loved being in charge. I loved doing navigation. I loved sailing itself. For me, it was never hard to do. It was my life.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
And those like, I guess the longest passages you would have done before that were those like 4-day things to Japan and stuff. So that's
7 to 10 days, but
okay.
We went north and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I've done it, but not Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean was the first longest.
Yeah.
Super long
I mean,
passage.
even before you left Russia to go sail out, the longest you guys had done were these 4, maybe 5-day things or whatever.
Yeah.
And but I guess that's long enough. I mean, that's an ocean passage. It's like
I think 5 days usually, like, there's no difference between 5 and 15.
Right. Yeah.
I think you pretty much, because you get into routine of sailing, I mean, in 5 days there's enough time for you to jump over. It's a day sail.
Yeah.
Right, and get into routine of standing watch, making dinner, taking care of the boat. I mean, at that point, I think usually day 3 where it kicks you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's often talked. I mean, we've talked about that on this podcast a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, that 3rd day thing. Yeah, that's cool. So it really wasn't a big change to get out there and do that, but it really became your full-time life.
Yep.
And it wasn't like, the way a lot of, I think, those of us involved with this podcast and with, and the listeners as well, which I'm also mostly a listener, is like the passages are sort of, the passage is the thing, but like you were out on this journey, you don't know what the end point is. You're just sailing to the next place.
Yep.
The next end point, but it's not an end point, it's the next waypoint. And then it's like, what's the big picture here? Your parents are sailing on, you're kind of meandering along with them. How's it go from there?
People and experiences. And I think, and this is what my dad always alluded to, is when you enter into a sail around the world, the passages are not the passages anymore. The passages become, it's a means of transportation to get somewhere. So you just had to do them to get, but the idea, I think, is meeting new people, experiencing places where most people couldn't go, right? I mean, there's so many islands, there's so many atolls, there's so many marinas. I mean, meeting people in Singapore and then meeting them back in Europe on the boat. It was the best thing in Cyprus to see Kitty Wake from Australia pull up. It always helped that they had the 2 cute daughters, but at the same time, we haven't seen them for 8 months, and then it was one of the best experiences just being them. They become a family, and again, like, they needed help, and I jumped for a week, and I think he had issues with the 5-glass in the bow. I put the suit on, I grind freaking 5-glass for a week for free. They didn't pay me a penny. Right? It was just to help.
Just community.
It becomes this traveling community, and people may split, go different directions or wherever, but at the end of the day, everybody together. And I think what we worry here about, this is long passage and how I'm going to deal with it. You do 1 or 2 those passages, and it becomes standard procedure, right? So because the mechanics of it, it's now that I've done Race to Alaska once, to me, I had so many anxieties about it.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
I have no anxieties whatsoever. And I think next time I'll do something stupid if I ever participate in this race again. Like, I mean, I could take so much more challenge because I already have done it once.
I love this. That was
Right.
literally Nikki's answer too. It was like, I just want to do something more stupid.
Well, because the anxieties will put away. So you've done this long passage across the ocean once, right?
Yeah.
You kind of, it's not all rosy picture. So you will see some winds. You will have absolutely idyllic, insane conditions.
Yeah.
But once you've done that, then you already prepared for both.
Interesting.
You know, like then it's a
Yeah.
mechanics. Like it's almost like, well, just like a fastnet. It was fascinating to me that there is a part of the community on the internet now saying, oh, they should have postponed the race knowing the gale is coming. 400 boats. Look how many just simply sailed freaking upwind.
Yeah.
Because people were local, I mean, not even local people, but people prepared for this stuff.
Hmm.
You know, like they were ready. They went, they fought, they
They've
went
done it
through.
before.
They've done it before.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, it's all doable. It's only scary when you haven't done it yet.
Right. Yeah. And when you haven't done it yet, you may not know to make the right decision not to go. So there's that too. But okay, I want to touch on your racing. I want to get there, but let's just bump ahead to when you arrive in the U.S. Like, how do you get to the U.S.? Do you rejoin your parents' boat? How do you guys arrive here?
So
And that whole thing.
we were, I did a race across the Atlantic on the Italian 50-footer. My dad did on his boat, and then we rejoined in Barbados again, kind of sailing together, and then we pulling up in Tobago Keys, and I see this gorgeous freaking tall ship, and I'm like, damn it, I would love to work on that. This is you asked, like, what's the main thing? This is the main thing. I see this tall ship, I'm like, damn it, I love this thing. I want to be on it. And sure enough, there is a tiny freaking Zodiac, pulls off the tall ship because they would anchor, pulls up, and there's a Russian guy. Because on our side of our boat was a giant in English, but it says Nakhodka.
Yeah.
You can't miss the damn name, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the name of our hometown. He pulls up. He's like, guys, there's a bunch of Russian guys working on it. We in Barbados every freaking Saturday. Come and visit us. You know, and then I got to go because they worked, right?
Yeah.
So we sail up through Caribbean islands, and we come up to Antigua, and they just switch. So the Star Clippers start coming to Antigua, and I'm like, Dad, remember we've seen this tall ship on Saturday? Let's just go over there. So we drive from English Harbor downtown to the main thing, and here we go. This beautiful tall ship standing. We come on board. The world is so freaking tiny. So my father, as a cadet, served time in this Dvimu, the university I was going to go to. He finished it.
Okay.
And as a cadet, you're supposed to spend time on tall ship. He spent the time on Krusenstern.
Oh.
There was an old freaking bosun. That bosun works on Star Clipper.
Amazing.
Because Star Clipper basically went to Krusenstern and handpicked a bunch of guys because it's the first tall ship in the world that used roller furler yards.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah,
So it's
I've
the
seen
first
them.
one that
Yeah.
started making those.
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare because it didn't work right. Because of the sail making.
Okay.
So they hired a bunch of these Russian sailors to figure out the sails on board to make them work.
Right.
And within 2 hours, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. They want to work? I'm like, sure. The German captain, like, name this. What's this rope? I name all of it, right? And he's like, 12 o'clock, be on board. We depart at 12.
Wow.
You have a contract for a year. So I went to the boat. My mom knows nothing about it. I show up, pack my bag. I'm like, adios, Mom. I'll see you in a year. And I jumped on tall ship.
Wow. And you're like 19, 20, something. No,
I am
not even, yeah.
18. Yeah.
18, okay.
So I basically work a year on tall ship. My parents already went to the States. They were in Fort Lauderdale. And then the world is insane. So I'm sitting stitching sails on Star Clipper, and I'm a young kid, hand stitching some jib on a bowsprit. This guy come from behind and start asking me questions about my sailing, what am I doing, how do I know how to stitch sails. I tell him all about it, who I am. And then second mate in the evening flies into our cabin, the whole mess. He's like, "What did you do?" I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? The owner wants to see you." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So that was apparently the owner of the Star Clipper, Star Flyer.
Okay.
He raced against my dad in Kilauea race because Asia is the name of my father's boat. Was a cold molded cedar, completely varnished outside. You can't miss the boat.
Yeah.
That was a super gorgeous boat at the time, Far 40 style.
Oh, wow.
And he came in and he started asking me about my dad. Like, where's your dad? Like, I mean, we used to race all this stuff. And basically, he helped me to get to the States because it would have been very difficult for me to get the visa. But he gave me a contract to go to the States and find a sailmaker that basically would build, because at this point we worked out a system for the furler, but the new sails we just got from UK in England came in with a super thick patches again. They again, like, we asked them not to put the patch because patches made this thick, super thick. So basically what we kind of came to, I wouldn't claim that we developed it because we didn't, but it was you know how today they stitch a foam kind of thing on the front of the jib, so when you reef it takes up a little bit. So we basically did exactly the same thing out of sail material, because at the time that type of foam was not, we didn't know it existed. Right. But also the patches need to be, the upper patch is super light. So when it furls even Steven. And we basically come up with this design, but UK Sales just sent us the full set that was sucked. So he basically gives me a contract, says, go to the States because you need a visa to see your parents anyway, and get me. So that's how I got to the States.
And you're talking these sales, you're talking about like a semi-load of sales for this ship.
We're talking
like
about two ships, 1, 2, 3, 15 sails a ship. Right. So
big sales.
Big sales.
Yeah.
And I found at the time it was Johnson Sales / Substat in Tampa Bay, in St. Pete. And that's the guys that bid for the contract. And they hired me at minimum wage to be a consultant / sailmaker. I oversee the first set of sails.
Cool.
From there.
And that's how. And your parents were already in just on a visitor's visa, and then
in Fort Lauderdale.
Figured it out over time.
Yep.
And then if we'll kind of skip ahead because I want to talk about the racing. You're into the States, then you end up like in Boston somehow. And you're teaching there or racing there, or what happens there?
Yeah, there was a lot of fun, weird stuff happening. I moved to New York, worked for a trading company, got my Series 7, and I learned that this business is definitely not my cup of tea. I was given a couple opportunities that were amazing opportunities, but it was definitely not me. I couldn't handle it. Pressure. I'm not a good liar. And you have to be slick and slimy, and I'm not. I'm very direct and simple, and that didn't serve me well. And I ended up in Boston, met this guy Chris Mack, who to the day my best friend to some extent, and he just said, just come and stay with me as long as you want in Boston for a while, while you're figuring your stuff out. And I found Boston Sailing Center, and I just walked in and said, I want a job. What's your resume? Just put it on the table. He's like, you're hired. And I started teaching in Boston Sailing Center. But I became a head of maintenance. So I was there from, I want to say, 1999 to about 2005. So I was head of maintenance.
Kind of keeping the fleet up. And
managing 60 boats, and teaching at the same time.
Keeping all those outboards running on the chase boats.
Outboards running on the J boats. And we start adding to the fleet. So we had this really, really cool deep keel, super tall CNC 40 Invictus. And that was a machine. I mean, there was a couple of guys that kept that boat in such a perfect state. When it blows 40... and everybody's scared, Crazy Ivan class. They would pack the people out, go out and bash. And that thing performed always flawlessly. And then we got another CNC 38 for that purpose. And this is where my rudder cable went out in 30 knots, kind of thing. That's
fun.
So they had to sit downstairs, driving downwind, figuring out how the hell we're gonna fix this thing, So it was an awesome experience, but it was fantastic years of my life. I sailed pretty much every day.
Wow.
you know.
And so it was kind of back to your childhood a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
I
cool.
was in my element, and that's where I met my wife, Jean.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
You met her in
so
Boston.
She was a crazy chick that was going to go sail against prevailing winds around the world in a clipper race. And I'm like, even I have not thought of that. Like, I mean, this is kind of stupid, you know. I'm crazy, but that is insane.
Just the right level of stupid.
Yep.
Yeah, the attractive level of stupid.
Attractive level of stupid, yeah.
So what brought you guys, so do you become a citizen before you guys are married or after you're married, or somehow in there you kind of settle into the States for good?
That's a long story too. I actually did not get my citizenship until I moved to Seattle.
Okay.
So,
what brought you guys west? Work?
Well, so Jean finished a really nice college. She was working in the banking industry, and she is super hyper overachiever. And her career stumbled because, again, like people say Seattle freeze, Boston has everything is done in Boston have to be old money. You know what I mean? You need to be an old fart to be a financial advisor or wherever that is. There's no new money. And even the young kids that following, you know, for them, they follow what the father says, right? And the dude is just not going to die kind of thing forever.
Right.
So she came to this stumble block of no respect whatsoever, although she did extremely well. And it was that for her. And for me, it was kind of, at this point, I was there for 7 years, Boston Sailing Center. And it was going to get sold to some other guy, you know. And again, it was time to move.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends also was poached by Microsoft.
Okay.
And he's like, dude, come ski here. So I come in January. Microsoft gave him like a apartment in Belltown, top of the floor. You see all the mountains, January, sunshine, gorgeous. I see this race with the 200 freaking boats. I don't remember. It was like full of kites. I'm like, what rain?
Yeah.
What are you people? This is gorgeous.
No one will believe you that happens, but we get those days.
Up and move. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we should clarify that your wife Jean is the Jean of Sail Like a Girl notoriety.
Yep.
Having won the race with her first iteration of that team.
Yep.
On the Melgis, named after your son.
Yep.
And then came in fourth in a gnarly
Second
race
year. Yep.
the second time they went. And then you guys together just won the race on Grey Wolf.
Yep.
Which everybody's probably heard the interview with Nikki about that. But and I want to get to that race. But you and I met you on the island somehow through the sailing world. I don't remember when we first met, but we became friends through installing my engine because nothing brings people together like trauma.
Well, yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Or for you, some other guy touching your boat.
Yeah, exactly. Not really trauma, a kid, because it was so awesome. Like I remember telling people, it was like, you know, people do engine installs all the time, and it's a freaking event. It's like the biggest thing, and it's like it's panicky, and the yard's overdue, and it's $20,000 over what they said it was going to be. And I hear all these stories, and then you and I had been talking about the beta. At this point, you're a beta dealer and installer, and we've been talking about the beta for years. And I've been dancing around it, probably annoying the shit out of you, because I would dance around it and then be like, no, I got to just rebuild this Ford Lehman. And finally, the Lehman rebuild guy bails on me, and I'm on Eastbjorn with Eastbjorn and Ice Bear in Nanny Cay in BVI, and the guy bails on me, and I call you literally that afternoon. I'm like, here's my credit card number, like let's just buy this engine and let's do it.
Yep.
And that install was like so much fun. I had so much fun, and getting to know you and getting to just goof off basically and giggle while also working our asses off to make this thing happen. I think I learned, you know, I don't want to embarrass you with gushes, but like I really learned a lot about how to work hard and how to like be very efficient and work smarter and not harder. You tore in there the first day with a Sawzall. It was like, I'm sitting there going like, okay, I'm prepped. We're going to take this engine out. And you're like, with the Sawzall, just cutting through hoses, pulling wires out and shit, and then calling the crane in, you know. And anyway, that experience was really cool, and you've obviously provided that experience for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you got into that work. You had all this background. When I said earlier, it paid off that you had all this mechanical background. You've been doing that while also building this race, pedigree or resume. You and Gene have been racing Grey Wolf together, double-handed with crews. I got to race with you around Island, around San Juan Islands, around the county.
Yep.
That was really cool. All these things. Anyway, this sort of long-winded ramble to say you're now sort of moving out of the mechanical world and into a new space where the first endeavor you do, really, I think, first focused sailing endeavor you do is race to Alaska on a boat that kind of has no business winning. I talked about this with Nikki, but like, I remember asking you, like, are you going to win? You're like, yeah, I'm fucking going to win, man. And, you know, you guys win it in a boat that should be crushed by trimarans or whatever. It's amazing. So like there's a question in there somewhere. I guess I'm just sort of gushing about it because I'm thrilled about this whole story and this whole projection of like how your life has worked out and where you're getting to and continuing to go. But like with the sailing race and going to do that endeavor, is that just another piece of what you do best, which is to just make shit work even if other people can't make it work? Is that part of what comes from this whole life of sailing around the world and jumping in on whatever? What's the sauce?
I don't want to take too much credit here. I think the proper way to say it is my wife made me do it. Because Jean is like, she's so enthusiastic. And basically, like, these girls, and not just girls, like Maisie, for example, right? So she's been in contact with Jean forever and ever. And then the younger kids that just did the race to Alaska, younger girls, right? So they're all excited about this, watching the excitement of this group of people, the way they talk to Jean, because I guess Jean is the pillar of the community kind of there a little bit, right? Because she's also
a lot
involved,
of it.
a lot of it. So the way they talk to her is just like, I'm like, one of the nights when they were drinking and talking how awesome it would be, I'm like, just do it. I've been resisting it for a long time because, again, it's a weird race. It's not a race in my mind because, again, like, you bring a weapon and nobody can stop you. And then also seeing how much flack she got for the very first race to Alaska. I didn't enjoy that at all. That was actually quite horrible how much shit they gave girls.
Yeah, it should have been a huge celebration.
It should have been celebration, and it wasn't. Yeah. Well, it was in one circles, and then the other circle was very, very mean.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, But at the end of the day, we do in the race. And again, like me and you talked about this earlier, and this is where you're trying to drive this conversation towards. I think at this point, I want the Access Marine become a boat consulting company. And what I really, really want to do is I want to teach people, but not just sailing, because sailing is a skill could be acquired over time and depending on your level and everything else. But what sailing culture is more important than a sailing skill. Just because I've seen so many people jumping in and become a decent driver and suddenly doing all of this, but they have a lack of a sailing culture, understanding how to talk to right people, how to make choices between sails, machinery, or maintaining your own equipment.
Yeah.
And it's a huge part of this whole thing of being success. And again, like I see Sail Like a Girl first year success because they were fully prepped. They were fully prepped from every material standpoint. The fact that they broke Sparta in the year 2 and put them in the 4th position, again, we're not going to speculate where they could have finished, but broken Sparta, they sailed practically 24 hours with a broken Sparta. At least they didn't fold the carbon mast.
Yeah.
I mean, hello.
They could have just
just gone like that, you know, if they didn't pay attention, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all it took one good jibe and mast would have been gone.
That was incredible seamanship.
So they did that. I mean, so if you prepare, and Grey Wolf this year, again, like we prepped for everything. And I think that's why we did well.
Yeah. Yeah.
From crew to all of the maintenance of the boat, we were fully prepared for everything.
Yeah. And we can talk about, everybody can talk for days about conditions or speculate on what makes that boat work in that instance. But what we can point to is how much acquired knowledge, skill, and focus you had on the boat in the team. It was an incredible team.
Yeah.
Like
and it
really,
was
really
picked,
incredible
it was picked directly for that point.
Yeah.
Specifically for that race.
That's really cool. I love this idea, what you want to do with your company, Access Marine, to move it into this consulting around sailing culture, because that's huge. Like, people ask me every time we go out, all day when I go out on my charters, every day at least, somebody asks me, how long does it take you to learn how to sail? And I have no damn idea how to answer this question, because I always sort of jokingly, but I'm serious, say, I'm learning to sail today. Like, we're always learning to sail. And it's sort of like a weird cop-out because I don't know how to answer it. It's true, but it's also like a sidestep. And I talk about it in terms of like, I didn't learn how to sail until I owned my own boats. Because once I'm master of the ship, now I really understand how to sail, because I also have to know how to rebuild the toilet. I also have to know how to like the whole culture. And you mentioned something, knowing who to talk to.
Yep.
That our whole harbor culture in Eagle Harbor, and I'll count Port Madison as well. Like our island harbor culture is so snug when it comes to the marine world, or at least to my world of it. It's like you, John Giat, John Wilton.
Yep.
Like there's like Bob Schoonmaker. Like I feel like that we have this tight. There's a lot more, but there's like this place. We all know who to go to ask the question of where to go to, or who else to go to.
Or who else? Or like, who would you go to?
Right.
And like, try this guy. You call him like, I don't know. He's kind of didn't answer my question right, or whatever, but there's just somebody else I can talk to, right? And it's a big part of it.
And learning how to distill the information.
Yes.
Where it's like, I read a bunch of stuff and I go, God, my alternator must be dead because this thing's happening. And I call you or show up at your place and we have a 10-minute conversation and discover the alternator's don't like go trading out your batteries and redoing your whole system. Like, we have a solution to this thing, And I love, that's the culture of knowing just how to ask first.
Yep.
You'll always get an answer, and it'll probably be the wrong one for a long time from a lot of people, and then you'll learn how to trust the right people, on the dock. You learn who to ignore on the dock, who to listen to, and all these things. And so I think that's cool. Do you have an idea of how to approach building that Access Marine, sort of consultancy of
I think it's going to be built on the relationships, but I think finding those people. I already have some. So I already have some people that I'm working with, right? So who appreciate me, I appreciate them, and our relationship work together. The idea, what I want to do a little bit more is to put. So I've done this already for the friends, right? So now I want to try to figure out how to make money on it, which is not going to be crazy, but at the same time find those people. And I think through the boat show or through the brokers, right? So again, like, I have enough broker friends not to take every single person under my wing, but say, this guy will benefit from it. I'm selling him this weird boat and he will definitely benefit for it. But I also want to work with dreamers, right? So, and I think again, like, what gives me this not just idea, but feeling that I should definitely do this. There is quite few dreamers that bought the boats like yours. We put a brand new beta in, put the battery system in, and I send them on the way. And now I'm on the Facebook. They are in Mexico, grinding blisters away, but they've been sailing for 2 or 3 years through South, Panama, whatever, right? And I leave through those people now. Like, I constantly communicate with them, through text or wherever. We talk a lot, and I enjoy the fact that I gave a second life to that boat by putting the engine in, and they took off. And now, but also the process, just like me and you working on your engine gave you ability to know everything about it and give you all the confidence about it. Yeah. Same thing for those guys. So now they know the base system is not stressed anymore. Yeah. The sailing should never be stressful.
Yeah.
Sail should be enjoyable.
Especially not the engine. You're out to sail. The engine definitely shouldn't be stressful.
Exactly.
But it is for everybody.
Yep, exactly.
unless you've installed a new one and been part of it and all that. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, what is your what's the next sailing endeavor? What do you want to? What's the big? I mean, you guys have a racing schedule with Grey Wolf. You're out a lot, but what's like the next big thing, if there is one?
I don't know, man. I mean,
Okay.
we're definitely gonna do around the county, and we're gonna do.
Yeah, I'll do it with you. I'll go.
You're welcome, always, man. Seriously, you're welcome. Around the county, definitely. Prior to that, I'm not sure. Sometimes, and Grey Wolf can't hear me right now, but I wish Grey Wolf was a little bit more buoy racer than she is. I mean, it's
snappier.
That boat is so painful to take through a short course. It's just the way the design and that unstayed rig is so you can't get up to speed, right? So the boat is like, think about Grey Wolf.
Well, you have to describe Grey Wolf.
So-
she won't be listening to this, by the way.
Yeah,
So.
so Grey Wolf is amazing child of Roger Martin, and basically the original owner who commissioned her wanted a double-handed boat specifically for Newport, Bermuda, and it's supposed to be fast. So when she came out, she was one of the first boats coming out with a super wide ass. Like, I mean, her back is awesomely. Even today, you look at the hull, you're like, damn, that's a modern boat.
She looks like a sled.
She looked like a sled.
Yeah.
And at the time, Isabel out is here and Saldini capsized in Southern Ocean. You remember all this crazy recovery, ships, diversions, blah, blah, blah. Carbon comes in the market, and some couple of dudes like, what if we build these tree trunks? And you can capsize all day long. Come up, you still have a mast because you don't have any wires, right? And so Rage, Grey Wolf, Ocean Planet, there was a series of boats commissioned with those masts. And none of those boats, unfortunately, proved to be fast. Because again, like, there is so much. Imagine taking a telephone pole on front of the Boeing, tape the telephone pole to the Boeing 747 wing on the front of it and see how the damn thing will fly, right? I mean, that's exactly it. There's so much vortex of air coming off of the base that basically the bottom of the main has no pulling power. And surprisingly to me that when I purchased the boat, nobody before me came up with a Roach, right? And it has, again, no stays.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could think of is to make the boat faster or at least bring her up to speed is to put the bigger mainsail and take the mainsail further back away from the mast where I could start and up
top.
Up
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
Where the mast is skinny.
Yeah. I mean, she's almost four-sided. Right? The sail's almost four-sided. I mean, it's like, it's got
it's
quite
a TP,
big...
It's a TP52 main cut down,
Okay.
literally.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
the upper section, 75% is the top of TP52 main.
Okay, gotcha.
But because of that telephone pole mast and bending and all this stuff, it's very difficult to shift gears or do a snappy upwinds.
Gotcha.
Like the boat is fantastic off the wind. She's awesome in reaching conditions, but upwind is the biggest problem for us because, again, there is no tension on a forestay. There is nothing you can do to have a tension on a forestay.
Okay.
I mean, I have a double halyards, I have the pulley systems, I tried everything, but I even come up with a hydraulic stay at one point, thinking that will solve my problem. All I'm doing is bending mast forward.
Yeah, it's pretty noodly.
It's very, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, but I learned how to sail this boat the way she is. Loosey-goosey, and what's the next thing? I wish she was snappy around the course. I mean, I would love to participate a lot more in regular sails, but Grey Wolf is not one of those boats.
Yeah, she's kind of special for the weirdo races.
Yep.
She's a weirdo for the weirdos. I mean, around the county, she's done quite well.
We did okay, but we never won.
Well, not yet. Not till I'm on there this year.
Sounds good.
Very good. Well, I think that's a good place to stop. We miss anything? Is there anything you just desperately wanting to talk about in the sailing world? That seems like, awesome, man. It's been super fun chatting.
Yeah.
Do you have any, Andy often asks his guests if you have any recommendations.
Well, I mean,
Anything.
the recommendations for people who sail, for people who don't sail, would like to sail, just go and do it. Find a way. You can become a crew member on any boat. I mean, I have taken a girl like Kayla that, wanted to sail, never had a big boat experience, and she just came up and said, I really, really need a big boat experience. Can you take me? I said, sure. You'd be surprised. Don't be you can always ask people to be a crew, or just if you want to acquire another skill, just go and do it. Find somebody who can help you. And there is a ton of sailing schools. There's a ton of people like me, like you. Chartering is one of the ways to get into the game.
Yeah.
Go charter the boat, and you will be fascinated with it.
Yeah. Cool. That's great. Who should I talk to next?
Ooh, who should you? That's a loaded question. I don't know.
Other than I'll just say other than Jean.
Other than Jean.
Because she's already on my list.
Well, so depends on what kind of experience
Whatever. You just tell me who would you want to talk to next. It can be anybody. It can be out of my reach too. Just anybody.
Well, so one of the going to be amazing podcasts. So I don't know, Golden Globe, Kristen,
yeah,
the girl that won,
yeah,
she will be here in September.
Oh, great!
And that the girl you want to get in a podcast.
I may have to fight Andy or Emma, who often host this show, for that one, but we'll see. We'll see how we go.
She agreed to come up to Port Townsend because her boat was built in Port Townsend.
Yeah.
So she's going to come up. I think she's staying with me and Jean. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But I think she is.
Let's talk about getting that connection, either for me or for Andy or Emma or August remotely to do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it'd be cool for me to do it here since she's here.
Yeah.
That'd be rad.
Yeah, that would be rad. And
cool.
She's going to come and speak in Port Townsend a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know what her time frame is.
Yeah,
but
it's always crazy. We'll see how we go.
She would be amazing. Talking about legends, right? I mean, sailing around the world alone on slow as boat forever and ever. I mean, it's like,
that's stupid, right?
Talk about race of attrition.
Yeah,
I'm scared of it, dude.
Yeah,
I'm scared of it.
It's pretty stupid, and it's awesome.
It's pretty. I think, can I do it? Absolutely. Can I do it from a physical standpoint? Absolutely. Do I have a skill to do it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mentally, I'm scared of it.
Of course, you like
it's
people,
a challenge, man.
So maybe a solo race is in your future to push yourself on that.
I don't know. I think I'm past that.
All right.
I think I'm past I had a big aspirations to do more solo career. That's why I bought the Grey Wolf.
Yeah.
And I didn't do enough. I didn't do Transpac solo or anything like that. But I think I might be done with it. I actually want to do a little bit more. I think I want to do more with people.
Yeah.
I recognize the impact that Northwest Maritime Center has on people.
Yeah.
I want to, I worked and I see the impact that I've done through engine repair and engine things. I want to create more impact on people. I want to make people better.
Dude, that's a beautiful place to end this. That's great. That's awesome. Cool. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, man.
Awesome.
We'll have another beer.
Sounds good.
On the Wind is the podcast about sailing. Created by 59 North and hosted by me, Ben Dorr, and also by Andy Schell, August Sandberg, Nikki Henderson, and Emma Garshagen. The show is mixed and produced in Frederick, Maryland by Lee Cumberland. Ads are read by us, the hosts, and occasionally by 59 North bosun Adam Brown and podcast producer Lee Cumberland. Episode artwork and website show notes are done by Laura Parent in San Francisco. The intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest and musician Cameron Dial. While the outro music you're hearing now is, of course, by our friends Storm Weather Shanty Choir. We love hearing from our fans. In fact, I was a fan once, emailed Andy, and I'm sitting here hosting this podcast, having sailed offshore a bunch of times with the boats as well. So there you go. Send your questions and comments to holdfast@59north.com. And please do us a favor and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, hold fast.
To go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking down the street, I met sweet Angeline. She said, come home with me, me lad, and we'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone, was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said,
last time you was paid up with me, you took up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more.
once more, once more, to go to sea once more. I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Sometimes we're catching whales, me lads, but mostly we get none. With a 20-foot oar in every paw from 5 o'clock in the morn. And when daylight's gone and the night's coming on, we rest upon our oars. And oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or snug with the girls ashore. Oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Come all you seafaring lads that listen to me song. When you go a big boating, boys, make sure you do not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip, don't go with any whores. But get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more.